Luke Walton and the Kings have agreed to a deal to make him the team's new head coach, which motivated us to dig into our archives and unearth this little beauty. Stephen, that's you, Luke, Malik Rose, RJ, Richard Jefferson enjoying a couple of beverages, probably some iced teas. Maybe.
First of all, let me clear that up. Me and Malik was there because we was invited to the ESPY Awards. That's the year we won the championship. I don't know why they there. We didn't go with them. Me and Malik was there for the I tell everybody because I've been sending it. They've been sending me this. Me and Luke ain't that cool. You know what I'm saying? Don't make my picture fool y'all. Me and Malik was there because we won the championship.
Just
let's get that clear. Playboy Mansion. A lot of people was there.
No, I got you.
Yeah. Don't get it.
No. Separate that.
Yeah,
Richard, and where are you?
All basketball players ain't cool.
People don't know where you are in this picture.
Playboy Mansion, baby. First and last time.
Oh, I thought you meant where. I was like, he's in the hat, Nick.
No, I know which one he is.
What kind of drink is that right there?
That's vodka and pineapple. Look at the jersey. Who jersey is that? Doug Williams.
Oh, okay.
College jersey.
State.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Man, okay.
Yes, indeed. That's what
Luke's there with his college roommate, Richard Jefferson, obviously. They've been friends forever. You're there with your teammate.
GSU.
Yep.
I thought.
ESPY Awards.
Shout out, by the way, again, I got to own it all morning. Luke Walton got another job real quick, like I said he wasn't going to. Shout out to Luke.
He sure did.
Moving on to the Warriors and the Clippers. Steph Curry went off for 38 points to go along with 15 rebounds and 7 assists. It was a good night for Mr. Steph Curry. Golden State cruising to a 121-104 Game 1 win. Clippers head coach Doc Rivers had nothing but compliments for Curry after the game.
I was telling my coaching staff, I still think Steph Curry is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. I don't even know how that happens, but he is. He's taken for granted. And all I know is when he's on the floor, he is a handful, and he makes them better in so many ways. You know, he was one of the best rebounders today. You know, he just does everything. He's a great player.
Stephen, when I teased this the last segment, you said, who in the world would call Steph Curry underrated? Doc called Steph underrated. Does Steph not get enough credit for the work he does for that team?
How's he underrated? He just made past Ray Allen for all-time threes in playoffs. How is he underrated? He's a 3-time champ. How is he underrated? He's an MVP, 2-time MVP. How is he underrated? This kid is great. I think people who don't watch basketball, don't know the game, or just hate the Warriors because KD on the team, don't give him his props. Everybody knows Steph is great. He's going down as one of the best players in the game, definitely the best shooter we've ever seen. I was on the team when he got drafted, so he was my rook for a little while before I got traded. It's a great kid. I don't think he's underrated. I just think a lot of people hate him because they're so great, and when you're great, that's what happens.
There's a lot of times I used to break down Jerry Rice's film. I used to get specific film of certain routes that he ran, and I always thought he was one of the greatest football players ever and definitely the greatest wide receiver. But when I used to break it down and I used to really study him compared to looking at him versus other wide receivers and going against defensive back compared to studying, I think Doc Rivers is talking about when I study this, because now it's not the regular season. I'm studying the Warriors and what they do. And every time I watch the clip, it's like, man, he moves better without the ball. You know something, man, his ball handling is better. Man, you know something? He is not as bad defensively. Hey, you know something? He's a better rebounder. So even in greatness, I think when you slow it down and you start to study what you do in these playoffs, you know that, man. They know all your tendencies. And then he starts to see how it affects the team. Well, man, Clay wouldn't be as good because I'd be able to help out a little more on him if Steph's not there. The overall spacing, and I think the system that they run, they've refined it a little bit because Steph he's a better ball handler than he was 5 years ago, and he's definitely better, more physical, moving without the basketball than he was 5 years ago. So I think those are the things that someone like Doc Rivers is trying to point out to people who don't study it every day.
And that doesn't even speak to the calming and emotional presence he gives a Warriors team that without him would have even more volatility. Like, okay, Steph Curry, I disagree with you, Stephen. He is 100% underrated. And you know how I'll be able to prove it? Wait till the MVP voting comes out. And we see that once again, he might finish outside of the top 5. Might not even finish with the most MVP votes of anyone on his own team. When people say, well, you know who had a better year than Steph this year? Nikola Jokic. It's absurd. He is the difference maker for them. Without him, could they win a championship? Maybe. Without him, would they still be a really good team? Yes. But what he does to defenses and the way he can dominate a possession that he never touches the basketball with his movement and with the attention, the utter fear he puts into people. There was a play in this game this weekend where he takes the ball up court. There's 19 on the shot clock. He's got 2 guys on him. He's about 32 feet from the basket.
Confidence.
And just pulls up. And it's not a bad shot. Last week, the reason I said he absolutely has more to prove, more to accomplish as an NBA player is he's a guy, one of the 3 guys I think playing today, right now, that has, I can get damn near the top of this pyramid as my best case scenario. What is Steph Curry's, best case scenario for his career? Half dozen championships, couple more MVPs, add some finals MVPs. Like, you can't tell the story of basketball without, in the first couple paragraphs, talking about the greatest shooter who ever lived, who helped create one of the greatest dynasties of modern NBA history. Like, that's who Steph Curry is. And I think at times, because of Durant and because people are sick of the Warriors, people forget that. And they absolutely forget the part you pointed out, C. One of the best rebounders at the point guard position we have in the league. No longer a bad defender. At this point, he's a more than adequate defender. And an excellent ball handler and passer of the basketball.
The reason why I say he's not underrated, because if you go in any locker room, and look at all them players in there, who they thinking about? Steph and KD. If you look on that board, who we worried about? Steph. Who's one of the most feared players in the league? Not just because he talks trash, he'll knock you down, because he's unguardable. Steph Curry. I don't think he's underrated.
I don't think he's underrated by players.
Right, and that's what I'm speaking from. I'm speaking from as a player. He's definitely respected and definitely a top 5 player in the league.
When you talk about his calming effect on the team, I think that's something that goes underrated, and people don't talk about that. But the season the Warriors had, where there has been flare-ups and tension, talk about his influence on the team and being able to keep that unit together.
Well, he's the calming influence. If you look at Steph, his overall demeanor, there's leadership in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't have to always be Tom Izzo screaming at someone in your face. It don't have to always be someone like Draymond, something like that. Steph has done it in the type of way that this organization, they made a bet on him when they didn't have to a number of years ago, and they've invested in him, and this organization is around him. When they went out to get KD, Steph didn't have a problem with it. So that all leads to his overall demeanor, what he's going to be about on a daily basis. There is no Warrior working on their game harder. And they got a bunch of guys that work on their game. But none of them can say, you know something, I work harder than Steph. And that brings you a great deal of cachet inside that locker room when you go to say something. It's about not only the things that you do, but how you show them on a daily basis. And and that leadership you talk about, I mean, the respect that Steph has around, like, as far as NBA players, that's from a leadership standpoint also, not only what he does on the basketball court.
And that means more to him, more than anything, that the players feel that way about him. And I compare Steph to Tim Duncan. He's Tim Duncan-esque. He has the same calm as Tim Duncan. A lot of you have to have one player on the team when guys get out of control. You have a lot of Steven Jackson, you have a Draymond, you have a Boogie Cousins. You have to have a guy like Steph that's an even kill at all times. It's times where him and Draymond go up for the rebound, and Draymond is all irate, but Steph will go to him and calm him down and give him a high five. You need a guy like Steph, and the way he approaches the game and his calmness is very important to that team, because you got a lot of guys that's all over the place.
Good stuff. All right, Stephen, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be back.
Appreciate that. Coming up, was Sunday's win at Augusta Tigers' best win of his